Go.
Streaming from South Africa to the world. This is the Stonks Go Moon podcast. What just happened? We break it down so you don't have to.
Welcome everyone to the Stonks Go Moon podcast. My guest today, legendary photographer Dave Krugman and founder of Allships. Welcome to the pod.
Thanks for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Nailed it. We were talking a bit off air about your childhood. I basically asked you, did you always have this vibe going on? I think that's a conversation I'd like to take up again. Were you always this cool growing up? Were you like a nerdy kid? What was going on?
I mean, I really appreciate the compliment. That's very sweet of you to say that. I think I was really shy growing up as a kid until a certain point in my life. I kind of found my humor and my voice at the end of elementary school. And I just kind of always understood from a very, very young age that I did not fit into hierarchies and systems. Yeah. And I knew ever since I knew what it was, I knew that I would be an artist of some type. I knew that I would not be in some rigid institutional setting, because school just always felt like too structured and too organized. And I always found my joy outside of those systems. And so I did everything I could over the years to avoid getting trapped into, long-term commitments in terms of my professional life. So basically always worked on the fringes, on the outside of creative spaces.
So picking up a camera for the first time, what was it? Polaroid, point and click? What was that?
No, the first camera I ever used was it was a hand-me-down from my grandfather, as much of my equipment is. This one it's called the Nikon F1.
Okay.
It's just a great starter point and shoot. Not point and shoot. It's an SLR film camera. Okay. And so I was shooting a lot of black and white on it at summer camp, and self-processing everything and making prints and processing prints. And that kind of high is something I've been chasing ever since, where it's like, oh my God, I can just use this chemical alchemy to basically freeze reality into this chemical matrix, and then go back to it at any time in my life and relive that memory. And I'm like, this is insane. This is so cool. I just got hooked.
Yeah, but you talk about chasing that high. Is that a constant? Have you ever reached that, or is it still a daily chase or a weekly chase?
Oh no, I hit it all the time. I think it's one of those things where you never hit that first high.
Yeah.
Drug. But I mean, I have just joyous moments with photography all the time. I mean, today is one of those days. I have this huge drop on Nifty Gateway today. The response online is insane. I can't believe the level of support and encouragement I'm getting. And I'm euphoric. I'm so grateful that I get to be a photographer, and that crypto art has given me a path to be financially, successful as an artist. This is just unheard of for me. And so I don't take it lightly. And I'm definitely feeling a high today.
We'll get to that a bit later. I want to talk about capturing inanimate objects versus people. Do you have a sort of a different approach when you are, for instance, photographing cars, or maybe there's a beautiful person on the side of a road? What's sort of the change in approach?
So I think that's a really, really, really good question. I'm glad you asked that. Nobody's ever asked me that before.
Yes.
So I think what's interesting, let's talk about cars specifically really quickly. What's interesting about cars, and one of the reasons I chose it as a subject for some of my bigger crypto art projects, cars kind of inherently have a story. Every little dent, every little detail, the amount the tires are inflated, the bumper stickers, the color, the wear and tear, where they're parked, who's around the scene. Even just as inert objects, there are stories that are embedded within those objects. So I really like cars as a subject because they have personality. I think they're a great scaffolding for storytelling. And I think this is because, American culture especially has been so ingrained with car culture, Think about the movie Grease. Think about, there's just a million different, Fast and Furious. Cars are inherently Americana phenomenon where they're just a part of the American dream. They're part of the story. So cars are really, really easy to build lore and stories around. Yeah. When it comes to shooting people, to me, it's all about the interaction between humans with each other, and also the interaction between humans and their environment. So my street photography work that is more human-based is very much about like, how much of like a Blade Runner, story can I have emerge from a still photograph? How much of a cinematic feel can I have? What are the moments that happen between citizens of New York City that look like little catalysts for different moments and different stories to tell? So basically the overarching theme is that all my photographs I try to imbue with a little bit of story and narrative. But I think it's much easier to do that when there's people involved, but you can also shoot objects in a way where there is a story.
Awesome. Also, photography has basically become more accessible as technology has become cheaper. But how do you sort of distinguish or differentiate yourself from being a professional photographer and then being sort of a hobbyist? Because there's a big difference.
Yeah, I think if you make your living making photography, you are a professional photographer. It's not a title that anybody has to give you. It's something that you need to claim for yourself.
Like that.
But I think the dividing line is like, is that how you make your living? For me, that is how I make my living. It's one of the few ways I make my living, but it's my main source of income. So that to me allows me to comfortably call myself a professional photographer. But the fact that everybody has an iPhone camera or a phone camera or some sort of camera on them at all times is the best thing that ever happened to photography. When I was first aging into my career, I had a lot of mentors that were older and that shot only film and were very anti-iPhone and this is the worst thing that's ever happened to photography. If everyone's a photographer, no one's a photographer. And I just was like completely baffled by their opinion. I was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. I'm like, don't you understand that when people participate in something, it deepens their appreciation for that thing. And so, before the era of smartphone photography and before the ubiquity and democratization of visual information, very few people cared to look at my photography. Even my friends were like, yeah, cool photo, bro. Let's go watch the game now. And I'm like, nobody likes this stuff, whatever. But once they started doing it themselves and looking at the world in a new light and practicing the art of observation, all of a sudden they're commenting on my Instagram being like, this is such a good one. How did you do this? How can I learn this? How can I make this? And then a lot of those people became photographers as well. And so I think the best thing that's ever happened is the democratization of these tools. And look, this has happened in every industry that has had one of these moments of decentralization and democratization. Some of the best writing in human history is after the printing press was invented, because it gave literacy to the masses. And before the printing press, literacy was a luxury. It was something for the church. It was something for the priesthood. It was something that was completely out of reach for the average family. And if you had a Bible in your home, you were lucky. You were considered well off. Because every book was some form of handwriting and hand copied. And it wasn't until the Gutenberg printing press where it made printing cheap enough so that the masses could become literate, and then they could appreciate literacy more. So that's exactly what happened for photography and visual art with smartphones and Instagram.
So you mentioned there decentralization, and you've referred to NFTs as sort of giving an artist self-sovereignty, which other traditional platforms lack. How has that changed your sort of creative process?
Immensely. So another great question. So basically, like, let's imagine a world without blockchain for a second, as most world does. So if I'm making my living in online spaces, the only way for me to accrue value around my effort is to accrue value around my social media identity. Then I can take that identity and I can leverage it and arbitrage it and sell that reach and that attention share to brands. And then those brands tap into my networks and I make content for them and they pay me a small fee and then, rinse and repeat. But there's no way for me to actually have
for a very long time.
Yeah, that's how I made my living for 10 years. But now I have a root identity layer that is sovereign to me, meaning my wallet, right? So my wallet is my wallet. Like whatever happens there is immutable.
Okay.
So now I'm accruing all of my social capital that I have in these social spaces that I've been building for 15 years and over the course of my career.
Wow.
Now that value accrues to assets. It accrues to tokens. It accrues to my tokenized artwork. And then those tokens can be traded like stock options around to the different communities. They're not stocks. They operate very differently. I want to be very clear about that. But they are little ways for people to make investments in my creative future. And it also aligns my incentives with my collectors and my audience in a way that was never possible before. Because on Instagram, my my incentives are very misaligned for my audience because I'm asking for their precious time. I'm asking for their attention. I'm asking for their participation. I'm asking for them to engage on a daily basis with me, or I slowly slide into irrelevance. But with these tokens that are permanent and they live on the blockchain and they're sovereign to everyone who's holding them, it's in their best interest to promote those tokens because they are holding an asset that can appreciate in value as my stock goes up. And so what this has done is created an identity layer online that has freed up my social to be more playful. But my real identity online is actually on the blockchain layer, which is a deeper, almost a genetic, like digital genetic layer that I think we're all building on top of right now. And for me, it's the most profound shift that's ever happened.
And your stock just shot up today. I mean, it went like almost linear. Let's talk about the drop, the Nifty Gateway studio drop called Drive.
Yep.
How did it go? What is it about?
So it's releasing in like, it's about to open up. It's releasing in like 2 hours.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like this. We all know what's going to happen by the time this.
I don't know, man. I'm nervous, but
I'm telling you, no. If anyone's watched your vibe on IG, and Twitter, it's just you've got this aura that makes people want to have a part of you, if that makes sense.
I really
appreciate
that.
Storytelling is bullshit. It's all about the vibe now, because you have to, if you're storytelling, you have to hook people for so long into that story to sort of, oh, here's the intro, here's the middle, and you've got them maybe for 8 seconds. But now when I see your photo, I was like, oh, that's David Krugman. Because even through all the noise, I can see your vibe. And that's where I think marketing is going, especially Gen Z marketing. So let's assume it's going to sell out, and let's talk about it.
Well, thank you. Knock on wood.
Yeah, right? I don't want to jinx it, but anyways.
So no, I appreciate you. I'm really grateful for all the support we've had on this drop. So basically, I think that blockchain is a scaffolding to build worlds on top of.
Okay.
And I think the mistake that a lot of artists make is they think they can just mint a photo and walk away. But this is different. This is not just social media. This is an interoperable data layer that we can use as a canvas. And so basically, we start with the pictures, but each one of these cars is the seed of a story, So like, think about the storytelling we can do. We have 333 different seeds in this garden, and each one of those can plant an entire world around it, right? Who drives that car? Why does it look like that? Why is one of the tires flat? What's in the background? What's happening? There's so much story that we can weave around it. So I decided, why not just run this like a real used car business? And so I gave an assignment to my team, a challenge to my team. I was like, guys, this is a real business. Like, we're selling a product. Let's just run it like we have a real dealership. And then the whole tongue-in-cheek bit and the humor of it is that, like, we're selling pictures of other people's used cars that like, we're not even selling anything real, but we're treating it like the realest business we've ever run.
It's so meta.
So it's
crazy.
The irony is just so like right. Because it's like not only are we selling artwork of cars, we're not even selling prints of artworks of cars. Like, we're selling the conceptual idea of used cars. And it's just like, we've had so much fun with it. We made full commercials. We built this insane used car dealership website. We had a hotline that people are leaving unhinged messages at, and we're giving away cars to them. We have a Yelp page. We have a whole product line. We're going to have a whole merch line. You will actually be able to make prints of these through a token gated printing site on allships.co.
Yeah.
And it's just been an absolute dream. And the response, like, no matter what happens with the drop, I'm so excited about the response so far.
Because it's so new, it's so fresh.
Yeah.
How long did that take to get together? Because you took 333, that's just the photos and then all the rest. How long did this project take?
So I dropped the first season of this project in 2021, and it was just minting cars.
Yes.
But then I gamified it. So I kept 20 cars back, and then I would give out the cars to people for creative challenges slowly over the years.
Okay.
And that I'd re-inject the tension back into the project every time I do that, because I have these public photo contests, right?
Okay.
We've built these tokenized incentives, right?
Yeah.
So we're doing that again with Drive Lap 2. But for Lap 2, I have thousands and thousands of cars. I shoot them all on my iPhone when I'm walking around. I never go out with the intention to shoot. They're just like appear in front of me, whenever I'm out. So this time I was like, again, it's not enough to just mint shit on chain and expect that it's going to sell out, especially in this market.
Yeah.
You need to show people, you need to push the boundaries. Like, this technology is so powerful and it's being so misunderstood and underused by even some of the most creative people in the space. And so I'm trying to prove that we can do things this way and find tremendous success in very difficult markets, so that other artists can just take these ideas and run with them. I'm an open source guy. Whatever I do in this project, like I'm like, everybody take it, steal it from me, do it better. And then that's just the point we're trying to prove. I'd say it took about a year of building to get this one done. But 10 years of shooting cars for sure.
Yeah, because it's that 10 years that you don't see. You just see this a little bit and then the drop, and then So
if you look at the spread of cars, I mean, it's like there's such insane variety and quality in there that.
Last question before I let you leave. If you're looking back at your career, what would you say was the most pivotal decision that you took that brought you to this point where you are today?
I think just refusing to have a real job. Just being like, no matter what happens, no matter where I'm going to live, no matter how I'm going to live, no matter the quality of my life, I want to work for me. I want to work for myself. I don't want a boss texting me, bothering me, being like, oh, this is what we have to do. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to do that. And they're like, well, you work for me. So I just never want to be in that position.
Okay.
And I hope that if I'm ever in that position over other people or with other people, I can be the type of boss that lets them do their own thing and have autonomy and own their time. So, that's what we're doing at Allships right now.
Basically, you backed yourself 100%.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. If the listeners want to go and check out the drop, want to check out your artwork, want to check out your vibe, where can they do that?
The best place to find me is like across everywhere is on my Linktree. So it's linktree.com/Dave Krugman. Okay. But yeah, just Dave_Krugman on Twitter, Dave.Krugman on Instagram. And from there, you can find me everywhere.
And we will put all the links in the comments.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Also Allships.co, which is our my creator hub and my physical location in New York that we're doing a bunch of parties at. So check us out there too.
We're going to put that as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. And to our listeners, well, sorry, before I let you leave, where did you get that cool shirt?
I got this at a thrift store.
Oh, see people vibe. Told you, on fire.
Great your own vibe.
Thank you so much for joining me. And to our listeners, peace, love, and prosperity.
She fades like a flame, a shadow of a dream, just out of reach. Something deep inside she starts to teach. She's the ghost in his mind, a vision so clear. The love he can't find yet, she feels so near. A whisper in the wind, a breath on the breeze. The girl of his dreams, forever he'll seize. Chasing after shadows down the empty street. Her laughter echoes a bittersweet retreat. She's a phantom smile, a fleeting spark, guiding him through the endless dark. He lifts his camera, tries to freeze the frame, but the lens won't capture. She fades like a flame, a shadow of a dream, just out of reach. Something deep inside she starts to teach. She's the ghost in his mind, a vision so clear. The love he can't find yet, she feels so near. A whisper in the wind, a breath on the breeze. The girl of his dreams, forever he'll seize. He searches for her eyes, but she's just a memory, hidden in disguise. The closer he gets, the further she seems, a mirage of his heart. the queen of his dreams. She's the ghost in his mind, a vision so clear, the love he can't find yet, she feels so near. A whisper in the wind, a breath on the breeze, the girl of his dreams, forever he'll see. He'll keep on chasing through the night and day for the girl in the shadows who won't fade away. Though she's just a dream, he'll always believe in the love that's real, even if it's unseen.